Hi, and welcome to Something to Talk About. Tonight we will be talking about recycling, what you can and cannot recycle, and where does everything go after it leaves your house. But before we begin, if you do have any questions for tonight, please feel free to call. We are live in the studio tonight, 781-270-9199. You will see that number on your screen periodically throughout the show. And if you think of a question afterwards, or if you have an idea or suggestion for a future topic on Something to Talk About, please feel free to email me at talk@bcattv.org. I love getting email. Before we begin our official topic on recycling, I would like to thank my crew. Carey McNeil and Mike Duvall are staff members here that help me out on my show, and I really appreciate them, and I bring them cookies every week, or almost. And I would also like to thank Colleen Moore, who is a volunteer here, and she also does a fantabulous job on the show. So without them, it would be really hard to put on a show. And one last thank you, I would like to thank my husband, Paul, for staying home tonight and doing Daddy Date Night with Gwyneth and Evan. And Gwyneth, I hope you're having a fun Daddy Date Night playing with superheroes and being a superhero. And I will see you in the morning. So thank you very much. And now I would like to introduce Gretchen Carey, who is what's your official job title?
Recycling,
I never asked you that.
Recycling coordinator for the town of Bedford.
Okay, recycling goddess.
Something like that.
Something like that. Recycling czar.
That's right.
Okay,
Queen.
For the town of Bedford. But you did play a key role in developing Burlington's recycling program before moving over to Bedford. So you are like the guru of
recycling.
Waste engineering.
Oh, that's great.
Sanitation engineering.
I like that. Yeah, I don't thankfully have to work with sewer systems.
No.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for joining me.
You're welcome. I'm very, very glad to be here. It's one of my favorite topics. So.
Yay! Yep. As soon as one of my friends found out that you were going to be on the show, she's like, I have this question, this question, this question. I'm like, slow down, slow down. You need to write them down. I'm not going to remember them. She's not coming for another 2 months. So anyway, so I do have my little cheat sheet of questions.
Sure, sure.
But before we begin, you know, we already mentioned that you work in Bedford. You played a key role in Burlington. Yeah. What brought you here? You know, where did you go to school? How did you get to Burlington? Did you grow up here?
No.
Exactly, you know, that stuff.
Okay. No, I grew up in Connecticut, and on what my father calls a gentleman farm. And that is a 5-acre horse farm, which is as much work as, you know, many farms, because you're continually shoveling something. And it's a lot of fun. But
which is not recyclable.
No, it was, well, yes, it is compost.
It is.
Yeah, it goes right back onto, you know, right onto it. I'm sure that had something to do with that whole recyclable concept with me. But I was raised by my mom being the queen of organic gardening. We had a huge, probably acre garden, and grew everything and canned everything, and yeah, really very cool. And a dad who liked to go out hiking and canoeing and camping and all that. So
ooh, camping, that's
very,
something.
Very outdoorsy sort of childhood. And then I ended up getting my degree in genetics, specifically cytogenetics, which is a long way back. Okay, this was a long way back, a couple decades back, and at that point, cytogenetics is cell genetics. Molecular genetics had just been developed.
Oh, wow.
Everything that you hear about the Human Genome Project was just starting.
Wow.
So it was like the name of the program hadn't even caught up with the world at that point. So it was one of 5 schools in the country giving a degree in genetics. Now they practically give them out in high school. It's amazing. But but that led me to Boston, where I did an internship at Brigham and Women's, Children's, and Dana-Farber.
Oh, wow.
So I worked my way through bone marrow, amniocentesis, and cancer. So
intense.
Yeah, and blood. Yep, exactly. Very intense. It was, and ended up landing in Boston and loving it there, and got a job there. And my now husband came up to be with me, and
excellent.
Ever since, working on 19 years this year. So I'm very proud.
Awesome. Yeah, I took microbiology for non-science majors in college, and it was a huge mistake. Huge. Psychology major, through and
Right,
through.
right. Microbiology is dangerous. There are people I know who haven't eaten things like blue cheese ever since that class. So you have to be careful. Yeah.
Anyway, how did you, okay, I think I see where this is going, but how did you get interested in Burlington's recycling program or recycling in general? Because it's still kind of a fairly new.
I've always been a recycler for as long as there's been a situation in which I could recycle. And I have a daughter who is now nearly 15. It's frightening. Yeah, who babysits for your daughter.
And my daughter worships her.
Yes.
All the stuffed animals are now named after your daughter.
Okay. Well, that's good to have a fan club at that age. Yeah, that's good. And I was trying to explain climate change. I was trying to explain some of the weird events that have been going on and that sort of thing, because she was taking science in school and said, what weather do we have here? And I said, well, up until a little while ago, I would have said it was really simple, and we get hurricanes occasionally, but they're usually spent by the time they get to us. But then you get tornadoes and all sorts of bizarre things happening. Yeah, earthquakes, and I said, well, things are changing, and it has, to my mind, it has a lot to do with, 7 billion people on this planet, and so she looked at me and she said, well, what are we going to do? And I said, well, we recycle and we, conserve our water and turn off our lights. And she looked at me and she said, no, Mama, this is a big problem. What are we going to do?
Colonize Mars.
And yeah, I know. And I sat there and I swear I felt my life just took a dead left turn. And I said, can I get back to you on that? Because I'm not really sure, but
what do you think we should do?
I know, out of the mouths of babes. And I said, I really don't know, but you're right. If I feel like that this is happening and that we should be doing something, I shouldn't keep it to myself. And so I joined what was the very beginnings of a recycling committee in Burlington, and then chaired that for 3 years. And during which time I worked my way through the school systems. We put bins on all the public areas. So I'll go into that a little later on. But there's, did a lot.
Because I remember, when I was still working, it's like a lot of workplaces did not have recycling programs.
No, it wasn't that long ago. Or
it's like you'd be lucky enough if they had like the deposit cans.
Right. That somebody brought back because of Boy Scouts or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so we went through the town buildings and got them on board because, role modeling and all that.
Exactly.
So be sure if you're going to ask people to do it. So, so we kind of made a big dent. And that was also about the time, somewhere in there, was when we went from we'll take all of your trash at the curb to you get one giant bin. So the recycling committee sat out in front of election tables, at election
what are they
time.
called?
Carts. Garbage carts, trash carts.
Okay.
In our case, trash carts.
Okay.
But we did a lot of education.
Totes.
Totes.
I think that's what they call them.
They call them totes too.
Okay, sorry.
Sure. And so we did our best to get the word out when that was going on, and that was a big deal.
Oh yeah.
And so anyway, I continued doing a lot of things for the town, and then went off into the Conservation Commission, which, if anybody recognizes me from TV, I was there for a while too, every other week.
You're famous.
Yeah, that's me. Local celebrity. Yeah. So that's how. So then, at a certain point, I decided I wanted to get back into the field of actually making money, and ended up getting a job with the town of Bedford.
2 words: college tuition.
Yes.
You said you had a 15-year-old.
That's exactly right. Yes, it's yeah. Yep.
Okay, now we mentioned out of the mouths of babes,
yes.
Trying to save the world.
Yeah.
In oversimplistic terms.
Yeah.
But dumbing it down a little bit, or at least kind of narrowing it closer to home, why is recycling important to a community? I mean, other than saving the planet, are there any other benefits?
Definitely. Well, the whole saving the planet thing has to do with energy and resources and all that. On a much closer level, it saves money, which is a big factor to a town, as we all know. Nobody wants taxes to go up. There's never enough money for new teachers or whatever we need. And so it costs less money to recycle a ton of waste than it does to throw it away.
Really?
Yes, so it's cheaper to recycle.
Because they have to do stuff where
They do.
trash just goes into a landfill and recycling has to be sorted and
Well, this is true, but at the same time, that recycling, that plastic is a commodity. So that plastic can be resold, that paper can be resold, all of those
Okay.
things, the glass, all of them, to some degree or another, with the market going up and down, are worth money. And so it's at least cheaper for us to recycle it. We actually get paid for the paper that we
Okay.
recycle by the ton.
Wow.
So it's worth a lot to the town. And so then the less trash we throw away and the more conscious we are of it, the less we have to pay as a town for the disposal of that trash. So if you can make people conscious of what they're receiving with packing and what you're buying, and instead of throwing things away, maybe you can find homes for them. The less you put out to the curb, the less the bill is for the DPW at the end of the year.
Okay.
So we're saving money. So it's a big deal. And I go into, I didn't ask if they'd received the chart from my email.
Okay.
But hopefully later I'll be able to show you a chart
Okay.
for just showing the different systems and how they save money, how they save on garbage.
Cool.
Yep.
Okay, what changes? How do you get the word out? What changes can a town make to encourage recycling?
Okay. A biggie
Other
is,
than you walking around town knocking on everybody's doors saying, hey, recycle, which
Right.
could work, but
Which
that's
they
kind
do
of...
actually have recycling enforcement officers.
Really?
Yeah, they do. And that's the last thing you want to do. You do a lot of education, flyers. I've made videos, things to get the word out to people of what they could be doing. Try to make it easier for them in one way or another. For instance, nowadays it is infinitely easier to recycle than it was 10 or 15 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
So all of your paper goes into one bin, and depending how old you are, you might remember the time when white paper went here, cardboard went here, and nowadays
And
it's
different
just
kinds of cardboard. Yeah, the corrugated
the
cardboard.
corrugated
and-
versus the flat, yes. So it's not like that anymore. It's all of your paper goes in one bin, and all of your metal, plastic, and glass is called commingled, because it's all
Commingled.
mingled together, and that all goes into another bin. But that's the industry term for it, so yeah, we
I
understand.
like it.
that.
It's like one of those SAT words that
a
I'm
great word.
convinced they made up.
That's right.
Okay. However, on that note,
Sure.
just an observation. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old at home. So, of course, the trash truck and the recycle truck and the workers accompanying those trucks are celebrities in our house.
Okay.
Hear the trash truck come in, drop everything, run to the front window.
okay.
So I kind of pay attention. Now, how come you just said we're still supposed to separate paper from everything else, recyclable?
Yep.
How come sometimes the guy just dumps everything in the same bin in the truck? Is he supposed to do that?
It should be separated out where there's a section for plastics and a section for paper. So it's in the same truck,
Okay.
and this is really common. But the fact is that logistically,
Or sometimes, like my next door neighbor just has one recycling bin with everything in it, and he doesn't separate paper. So is that like a major problem?
it makes a mess on the other end because, it becomes what they call contaminated.
Okay.
So it's not worth as
So
much.
is the paper side contaminated or the
The paper side,
commingled?
the commingled. Yes. Well,
Love that.
okay. We have a dual stream system.
Okay.
There is such a thing as a single stream system.
Okay.
All right. It generally is good for a town in that it's easier because you throw everything in together.
Okay.
And there are towns that have the system. We have dual. Okay. We're
Okay.
separating them. The paper, to some degree, gets contaminated by the food stuff that's on all the plastics and everything else.
Okay.
So it's a different grade of paper
Okay.
when you do it that way. It doesn't necessarily mean there's definitely both parties, and
Okay.
both boats in.
So in other words,
schools of thought.
separate
You have to
your
separate.
paper.
Yes, we are a dual
You're
stream system.
saving the town.
That's right. You're making money for the town.
Making money for the town
separating out the
and
paper.
reducing your costs.
That's right. That's right.
By separating it.
That's right. So
Right.
the more you recycle, the
So
more you
separate.
save the town. That's right.
Make sure you separate. Okay, good. The camera wasn't on me. Make sure you separate. Okay. All right, all right.
Okay.
Now, I've lived in Burlington a little over 10 years now. Yay!
Congratulations.
when I first moved here, we had recycling every other week.
Okay.
And now it's every week.
Sure, because they're pushing the recycling. They want
Okay.
to make sure that you have plenty of room to get rid of your recycling every week. They don't want that to be an issue.
Okay.
If, for instance, we say you only get this space to put your trash in, but we want you to have plenty of room to recycle.
Okay.
If suddenly you find that you have too much, you've tried recycling, and the fact is, this is something that not everybody knows, but we all have these gray bins, which you can buy for $7, okay? And you're going to need at least one gray bin because you probably need two, one to do paper, one to do
Mine are
plastic.
still green.
Sorry, green. Yes, here in Bedford they're gray. My bad. But you can also take any size garbage can you want and put a recycling sticker on
And
it.
I think they have those available at like Town Hall.
Yes, they do. DPW has them available.
Okay.
So you can go in and make any container you want. So you can, recycle any amount that you want. There's no limit to that.
Now, speaking of that, I know I didn't clear this with you in advance. I'm
it's
sorry. It just popped into my head. So
all right.
hopefully you can answer it. Yard waste.
Yeah.
Why is that different than everything else? Because you can't put it with your trash. You can't put it with recycles.
No.
It's separate.
Right, it is. Yes, it is actually mandated
I
by the
think it would
state
kind
to
of
be
help with the
separate.
whole
Well, because we're-
landfill stuff.
No, it was okay.
okay.
It's compostable. It will turn into dirt again,
Okay.
whereas the plastics and glass will not.
Right.
And the paper's worth something, so you don't want to throw that in with the yard waste too.
Okay.
So there's a reason for the three.
Okay.
And I understand that it's more of a nuisance that way, but you're making money off of part of it. Part of it is definitely not going to break down, and that's why we're recycling
It's
it.
not real environmentally friendly.
No,
Okay.
it's not. It's not. But it is useful as a commodity. And then the next, the yard waste will break down and can be used for something.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, depending on where you live. For instance, Bedford actually has a landfill area where they encourage people to drop their stuff off.
Really?
And it becomes, these rows of compost,
Neat.
and the town uses it.
Yeah, my sister-in-law lives in a town where, like, in the fall, they just rake their leaves to the curb or like the gutter of the street, and this truck comes and just sucks it all up with a giant vacuum.
That's sweet.
I'm
I've
like,
never
that
heard of
would be
that.
so
Yeah.
cool.
That's very
You don't have to
cool.
bag; it just sucks it all up. Kind of like the reverse of sometimes, like landscapers have the
the window
hose that
yeah,
shoots
the air
yeah.
and
Anyway.
leaves out into the road. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Anyway, so you mentioned that they're encouraging recycling by doing it every week.
Yep.
Now, there is a cost involved. Did Burlington before recycle enough to make it, worthwhile, like financially acceptable?
I don't.
Or are they
actually know.
losing money?
Well, I'm
And-
going to say no because originally, and I don't know for sure, but I'm going to guess.
Okay.
Our original recycling rate was 14%.
Okay.
Okay, so that's not a lot.
No.
So not enough to send a second, a truck
Right.
around every other week or every week. After we changed over to the one 64-gallon bin, trash bin, we went
big
up
blue
to
thing.
24%
Wow.
recycling. So it makes a big difference.
Wow.
Yeah. And it is amazing because people really will put out whatever amount of trash you allow them to.
Okay.
And so by making that bin smaller, you are limiting their trash and saving the town a lot of money. So,
Interesting.
and going back to Bedford for a minute,
Okay.
because that's where I am. For instance, they just went over to a bin system. Their trash cart is one size smaller than Burlington's, and they saved $120,000 last year.
Wow.
So it's a really big deal for a town.
Yeah.
So it often takes a lot of energy and momentum to get it going because
Well,
in
we have to
general-
change our pattern. We have
Right,
to change
exactly, and not
you know,
everybody
habits,
wants
and we have to
to.
change. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more work for
Change is
everybody.
hard.
It is, but once you get over it, everybody gets used to it, and it's not such a big deal.
Yeah.
So
It's a no-brainer.
yeah, it is.
Okay, who determines what can be recycled?
That would be the recycling company that we send our waste to. Or
Okay.
I'm calling it waste. Our recyclables all go to Hooksett, New Hampshire.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's a place up there, which I've seen, and they have a system whereby it's a conveyor belt, and it has magnets that pull the metal off, and it has
Okay.
blowers that blow the plastic off because it's lighter, and all these systems but that they can either take certain things or not take certain things, or maybe
Okay.
they have a place that they can sell things like orange juice containers and milk
Okay.
containers that are paper.
Even though they're
but-
like waxy, you
yeah,
can still
they're
recycle
actually
those?
a plastic. Yep, you actually can. They're called aseptic, which is a market term for them. But the idea is that it's actually a layer of plastic, and when you throw the whole thing into, when we watch my video later, you'll see that all of it ends up breaking down, and the plastic can be scooped out.
Cool.
Which is why it's different than paper plates with the waxy on them. The waxy doesn't come off.
Okay.
So it's why we don't take, paper plates with the waxy layer or certain things of that
Okay.
nature, but we do take that particular type of container.
Okay. What about like juice boxes or something? Are those like foil
those
lined?
should be those should be the same thing as the orange containers,
So those are recyclable.
as far as I know.
Hmm.
As far as I know.
We should try. And the recycling police will come after us. Okay. Now you recently produced a video that goes through, a basic recycling program. What can be recycled, what can't be, how to separate, how to figure it out, how to make that, the little decision tree.
Yep.
Do you have any comments before we take a look at that to kind of introduce it, or should we just?
Sure. No. I made it for Bedford, and you'll see that written all over it. But at the same time, Bedford and Burlington send their trash and their waste to all the same places.
Okay.
So all the rules apply to Burlington.
Okay.
As well as Bedford. And before we start, I'd just like to say thank you to Bedford TV. And they're the ones who helped produce it, and friends of Burlington, BCAT TV.
Yay.
And so I want to take a moment to say thank you to Madeline Altman and Greg Dolan for having helped out.
Great.
So much.
Hey, Mike, can we take a look at that video, please?
Hi, I'm Gretchen Carey. I'm the recycling coordinator here in Bedford. Are you trying to recycle and still find that you don't have enough room in your garbage can, and then you end up with overflow bags on top? Let me help you with that. I'm going to assume that you're already recycling things like cardboard, which has been recycled for a long time. There are a lot of things that are now recycled that were not even a couple of years ago. So I look forward to telling you about the changes. This has to be at least 3 feet across or smaller. So rip it up, cut it up, whatever it takes. And I suggest putting it in a paper bag. This keeps things from blowing all over the neighbors' lawns when it comes time for recycling day. Newspapers are another obvious choice for recycling. However, nowadays, as well as newspapers, you can also recycle all of the shiny inserts that come inside of the newspaper, along with all these other advertisements, junk mail. In the old days, you had to tear out the windows. You don't have to do that anymore. Recycling is much easier now. So, window and all, it goes into your recycling bin. There's also things in your house that you might not have thought of. These are made of cardboard too. And fairly easily, you can pull them open, flatten them out, and put them in. Understand that every time you're putting something from your garbage into your paper bag, you're not only saving yourself money, you're also making money for the town, because our paper is worth something as a commodity. So for the few seconds it takes you to flatten out something, you can save a fair amount of money by the end of the year. Another thing I have here is my Reynolds wrap. It has a little blade on it. Obviously, when flattening it, I should try not to cut myself, but I don't actually have to take the blade off, because in the end, this all becomes wood pulp in a sort of slurry. And all of the plastic bits, metal bits, and everything else all gets sluiced out. So for instance, on a day when you're going through a locker at the end of the year, and you don't have to take the metal spiral out anymore. You just put the entire thing into the bag. Same with your phone books, same with workbooks. Anything that doesn't have a hard cover can go directly into the bag. Nowadays, Bedford, who's particularly advanced in their recycling, even takes these waxy cartons. That includes milk cartons as well, that are paper. And you don't have to worry about the plastic rim or lid or anything. Just open the container, dump out the contents, give it a quick rinse, flatten it out, and put it in your bag. One thing you want to be careful of with paper is that you don't contaminate it with food. So, for instance, you don't want to add things like stained pizza boxes. Nothing that the food is stained into the cardboard, because that doesn't come out very well. So, another thing that you can recycle, if, for instance, you're the sort of person who uses paper towels to dry their hands instead of a towel, these paper towels can be recycled. They're not actually dirty. They were just wet. So you can put these in a bag. There are lots of little things you can save too. Tea bag holders, receipts, Powerball, Stop and Shop receipts, scratch cards, tickets, you name it. All of those things can be recycled. Another biggie that people don't think about is parties. Wrapping paper is definitely recyclable. This, for instance, is a gift bag. If it had gotten destroyed in the process, or I didn't need it, for instance, I can recycle this. I don't have to worry about the ropes. They're going to come out in the wash too. Even these nowadays, these are egg cartons that are made out of processed paper pulp. These can be scrunched down flat. You can either step on them or crush them in your hands, or however you like to do it. And those can be recycled as well. I would strongly suggest putting some sort of a container in every floor of your house at the very least. Because the more work it is for you to take your stuff to the next room or the next level to recycle it, the less likely you are to do it. So instead, get yourself something like this, and then you can put in an office or a kitchen. I would definitely put one right next to wherever you bring the mail in, because that's where most of your paper is going to come from. The one thing I get asked a lot about is plastic bags. These are recyclable, but not through the DPW. You need to take these back to your grocery store where you got them. They usually have a bin outside, somewhere in between the set of doors coming into the store. And they need to be clean, they need to be dry, but you can recycle every last kind of bag there that's plastic. So especially if it's got the recycling symbol on it. So don't throw them in, please don't throw them in with your trash or your recycling, because they will get caught in the machines. It's the one thing that the recycling company hates, because they gum up the works, as they put it. So don't think you're doing a favor by isolating out your different plastics or anything of the sort. Put them all in together, all of your commingled goes into your bin or into your garbage can, and all of your paper should go in paper bags or separately in its own bin. But don't put anything in plastic bags, please. I'll assume that you're already recycling water bottles, and you don't need to go crazy cleaning these out, all right? Water's obvious, you dump it out, you put it in the bin. But other bottles that are used for other foods just need to be rinsed. They don't need to be clean. Really, the whole point is to get enough food out that it doesn't stink up your house while they're waiting for the next recycling truck to come by. There are lots of food containers that are plastic. Something like this is really evident, and it has the recyclable number on the back here. It's number 1. It doesn't matter what number it is. Bedford takes 1 through 7, all of them. And it actually even takes rigid plastics now, which are things like your child's toys, used for outdoor shovels, things like that, rakes for the sandbox. that sort of thing. Those are all recyclable nowadays. My family is partial to Italian ices. All of these are recyclable. Along with your Dunkin' Donuts cups or Starbucks, or we don't take styrofoam. Unfortunately, very few people do. This is another plastic container. Easy enough to see that, at least under the peel here, there's another recycling number. Here's another one. This is a takeout box. It's 2 colors. All you have to do is dump the stuff out, give it a quick rinse, and once again, there's the triangle on the bottom for recycling. Another thing that you should think of are the bigger containers, maybe a BJ's container. Once again, check the bottom of it, find the triangle, you're in. Don't worry about lids. The lids are also plastic, throw them in. Don't worry about rings on bottles, perfectly fine. Don't worry about taking off labels unless you want to put the paper in a separate bag, which would be great, but if you don't have the time or energy, we understand. So, all kinds of plastics. Here's another one, pill bottles. These are also recyclable. Pretty much, if it's plastic nowadays, chances are really good that it's recyclable. So take a look at the bottom of it, see if you can find the triangle, and throw it in. So as you can see, my garbage bag is a lot emptier, my recycling bin is a lot fuller, and I've saved my money, I've saved the town of Bedford money, and made some money for them. And do you know last year, the town of Bedford recycled 1,000 tons of paper. That's 13,000 trees. So, there are lots of good reasons to recycle. Thanks for listening.
That was a cool video. Very informative. I'm
Thank
like,
you.
ooh.
Thank you.
Okay, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know that.
I tried to make that for the range of everybody, not just people who are starting to recycle, but people who are avid recyclers and have these, questions like, do I have to? Can I? Paper towels, things like that.
Do I have to clean it? Scrubbing it out. It's like, oh, run it through the dishwasher.
No, you definitely don't have to. You don't want to waste a lot of water because that's another resource. So really, I have, whatever dishes are already in the sink, I pour that into the plastic, so I'm not wasting any more water.
Okay, just a tangent about wasting water.
Sure.
Every time we go to paint a bedroom or paint something, we have those rollers.
Yeah.
My dad insists on washing them out until all the paint. I'm like, not worth the money.
Yeah,
I roll the roller away. You spend like 8 gallons of water just trying to.
Really do, and all that paint goes down the sink. And I used to, and now I don't. There's certain things that, as a morally conscious recycler type, you get twitchy about. Like what is worse and what is better, and I have to admit that's one I finally said I think it's worth the $1.50, and I'm just going to throw it away because I don't want to waste that much water. It is 8 gallons of water,
That and disposable diapers.
Oh. Yeah, no,
Not going the cloth
I originally tried the cloth, and I have to say they get really scary in the summertime very quickly, and so I ended up with disposable.
Sorry, environment.
Yes.
I'm going with I'm going with Pampers.
No, I did too.
Whatever. Okay.
Yes,
I digress.
Sure.
Okay, you answered a lot of questions in there. Anything that you did mention in there that you might want to elaborate on?
The one was the rigid plastics. I did not check to see if Burlington does rigid plastics.
Okay.
So for now, I'll say no.
Like the kids' toys, you have to look for the little triangle, and if it
you would. Look for any plastic that has a triangle on it. Throw it in.
Definitely good.
But don't go any further than that
because I'm thinking like a lot of my kids' toys, like those squirt things.
Yeah.
And the little plastic shovel and the bucket.
Right. I'm going to say, because I didn't check first, don't do it in Burlington unless if you want to check the website and see if it takes rigid plastic. I didn't see it on there when I looked.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Because I have no idea what we did with that little chart of what you can and what you can't. I think it's stuck to our refrigerator because I think they did little magnets.
That was recycling committee.
Oh, while ago. It's a very cool magnet.
Thank you. Yeah. Take a look.
I have a 4-year-old, so the refrigerator is kind of a work of art
and
on
continuous
its
motion,
own.
I'm sure. too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. You mentioned styrofoam.
Yeah. Yes.
Why not? I did notice that a lot of companies are starting to use like cardboard
Yeah, or
things.
extruded paper products.
or
Yeah,
like
usually
inflated
has-
plastic bags, like
Yes,
little
so you can
plastic
pop
balloon
those, yep,
things. But
which are generally recyclable. Take a
There-
look for that triangle.
there is
Okay.
still a
Yep.
lot of styrofoam
Okay.
lurking about. Why can't we recycle the styrofoam?
Okay. It has to do with finances, for one thing. It is a very light product. So
Okay.
you don't get anything per weight. You know, a ton of styrofoam
Paper is heavy.
huge.
Yeah.
A ton of styrofoam is huge. And so therefore it takes up a lot of space but doesn't get the town any money.
Okay.
Okay. There's a company in this area that does recycle styrofoam.
Okay.
And they're the only ones I know of, but they do certainly all of the Boston area.
Oh.
And they're easily accessible. I don't remember what town they're in, but it's North Shore area.
Okay.
And they have a place where you can drop your styrofoam off if you
Okay.
want to collect it. And they also hold lots of events in the area. Their name is Refoam It, REFOAM IT.com. So check their website.
Okay.
It's well worth looking at. They have all their events up there. The guy who runs
okay.
it is super friendly, and
Yay.
it is amazing. He was telling us, I think he said 15 trailer trucks of styrofoam, full of styrofoam, and they compress all the air out of it, and then melt it down, and it makes number 6 plastic, which then becomes picture frames, and you know the plastic molding that you can get so that if you don't feel like staining it yourself, it's the
Yeah.
pre-done, quick way to get that molding up, and that's all number 6 plastic, and that was styrofoam once.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah. So there is a place for it if you feel strongly about it or have plenty of it after getting furniture or whatever it was. Do everybody a favor and bring it to Refoam It.
Now, a lot of times, like those little styrofoam peanuts, sometimes like the UPS store, or, the shipping stores, sometimes
Yeah, call ahead.
okay.
Because that has kind of changed over time. They originally
okay.
were, then I don't know, then they weren't. So, call ahead. That's the best thing I can say. If your stuff is a
Okay.
trip, and look on the Refoam It website again to see if they take peanuts. So
Okay.
check first. They have a list of what they take and what they don't, because there's actually several different types of styrofoam.
Okay.
Yep.
Neat.
Yep. Yep. But I know a lot of diehard recyclers are very frustrated by that. Some towns do take it. They're rare.
Okay.
We don't yet.
Okay. Now, you mentioned in the video that plastic grocery bags
Yeah.
can't go in the bins because it goops
Right.
up the machinery.
Literally in Hooksett, New Hampshire, there is some poor guy whose entire job is to pull those bags off of the conveyor belt. And if one of them gets past him, you get this hole, and they stop, and they have to climb up and pull it all out. It just
Not pretty.
And I know people frequently want to do the right thing, and so they're thinking that they should separate out their paper, or they put things into plastic bags to separate them out neatly. Don't. Put your paper into a paper bag. That keeps it from
Okay.
blowing all over the neighborhood. And if you've got plastic, and if, for instance, you're concerned about your plastics blowing all over the neighborhood, it's a windy day, you can take that paper bag full of paper and put it on top of your plastics to hold it down. And the recycling truck will understand that this is paper and that goes one way and this is plastic and it goes the other. But at least things
One would
won't be
hope.
blowing. One can hope, yes. But don't put the plastic bags in there.
Okay.
They do not help anything. They make it worse. So same
Got
thing
it.
with, So those plastic bags go to
Reuse
your...
them instead
yes.
of recycle them.
Reuse
But-
them, or if you don't have a use for it, or buy the green bags, or the blue bags, or what, or give them as a gift. Use your-
99 cents. You can recycle.
they're wonderful, and I have had
And a lot of
mine-
places give them away. Like you go to Celebrate Burlington, and like every bank
Right.
gives you
Yes,
a bag.
yes, right there. You have your whole week's shopping. I have had mine for probably 6 or 7 years anyway. Okay, I bought them for $1 a piece. I have about, I don't know, I have to have at least 8 or 10 of them, plus a few that people gave me, And I've gotten to the point you can wash them. So if you're thinking to yourself, ooh, a little scary at the bottom there because of the chicken I threw in, throw it in the laundry just like everything else. And I'll admit that the logo may or may not be intact on the side when it comes out, but it's in perfect condition otherwise, and works just fine. And those save you all of the plastic and the paper questions. If you need the plastic bags, go for it. I understand some of us do the kitty litter thing with it.
Yeah.
I'm all in favor. But
Or the walk in the
considering
dog
how many plastic bags you get, at least I do with a family of 3, because the fabric bags carry about 3 times as much, like 3 plastic bags worth of stuff.
Although it's really frustrating when you go to the grocery store and one of those reusable grocery bags, they put the orange juice and the apple juice and the sodas and the 6-pack bottled water. And what are the heaviest items? And then, they go to pick it up the conveyor and they go, and it's like, how am I supposed to get that out of my car?
And the bag can handle it.
And then they
the
give you
handler
like
cannot.
4 empty bags at the end because, we didn't have enough stuff to, it's like.
I bag my own. I do the whole scanning thing ahead. It saves me the time.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Probably should do that.
I'm done by the time I get there. It's good.
It's just, it's so funny that, my husband always complains because he goes to the grocery store and he has to teach the bag person how to bag the groceries properly.
Yes, this is the freezer bag. This is this is the non-freezer bag.
Don't put all the all the liquid things in one bag, and it doesn't have to weigh 40 pounds.
Right.
Okay, I digress again. Sorry.
I understand.
Okay, you touched upon this. Just want to see what happens and where does all this stuff go once it's recycled? You put it on your curbside and it
sure. Okay.
mysteriously disappears.
It goes into the truck where it's then separated out.
Okay.
Then it goes to Hooksett, New Hampshire, where it goes up a conveyor belt, is separated
and
into
plastic
different things.
bag guy.
Poor plastic bag guy, whom I do not envy. And then you get your plastics going one way, your paper going another. Well, your plastics, your glass, they're all separated out.
Okay.
And then they're for instance, the plastics are put into this machine, then goes.
Okay.
And wraps metal straps around it, and you have a bale of plastics.
Okay.
And you have bales of paper.
I think I've seen the bales of paper.
Yeah.
You go to like a paper company or something, and they have all the paper, these huge cubes that are like the size of a
Yes, a good
large SUV.
Yeah, they really are.
Not even like a box truck.
Yep, and that's true. And they, they do. They use all of those in. They melt it down to make more plastic, or more Trex, or they make a million things out of recycled. You don't even
see
realize
like the
anymore.
park benches now
are
a while ago. It's like these are made out of recycled milk cartons. It's like cool.
Yes, carpeting, polar fleece. I think everybody knows polar fleece is made out of bottles, but carpeting is also frequently made out of bottles nowadays. Whether they say it or not, depending on whether they're trying to look green or not, a lot of times it's old recycled bottles. I've seen pencils made out of recycled wood. I've also seen pencils made out of recycled tires, which I thought was really interesting. They were black pencils. Very cool.
I think they're also using like tires for when they repave the streets to put it under the asphalt or something.
That's right. Ripping up all those tires to make it more pliable, less likely to end up with holes in it and stuff. They use glass bottles. They make little tiny spheres out of it and put it in the paint that they paint the edge of the road with so that it reflects light, and so you can see those better.
Cool.
It is amazing nowadays what they make, rubber tires into sneaker, soles.
Shoes. Oh,
yes. I have a handbag, which I meant to bring with me, but I have a purse that is actually made out of a recycled truck inner tube. It is the most durable purse I'll ever own. It'll be the rest of my life with this purse, which I'm very happy. I mean, you put it down in a movie theater floor and go, and then wipe it off with water. It's a beautiful thing,
Oh.
It was actually created by a vegan. It was a vegan who didn't want to use leather. And so it really kind of started, the whole recycling has changed a lot over even the last 5 years, where it started as recycling to some degree was you might find recycled paper, but you had to pay more for it, which to some degree you still do, and I think I should be catching up soon. But and I know, for instance, I like buying recycled paper towels, paper towels,
Okay.
and napkins. And I want.
Oh, I think I remember hearing at one point that like roofing shingles or something are made out of
Yeah.
old diapers or something.
I haven't heard of diapers, but I know that roofing shingles. Well, there's a waste ban on of demolition and construction materials in Massachusetts, and this has been going on for a couple of years. Everything gets taken out to Fort Devens for the most part, what used to be Fort Devens, and there's a big recycling center out there. But all of the wood, all the gypsum board, all of the metal, all of that now gets recycled, and they make new gypsum board out of it, and the wood gets used somewhere, and yeah, so that doesn't get wasted anymore because that's a huge amount. I mean, rebuilding, tearing down buildings, that kind of thing. There's just so many cool ways to recycle nowadays that are not standard. For instance, let's say you're redoing your kitchen.
Okay.
There are places, they're going roughly under the heading of architectural salvage yards, where you can get a tax credit for your kitchen cabinets that are in decent shape, okay, or even respectable shape. Functional. And for instance, there's one in North Billerica called the Restore, which has
it's Habitat for Humanity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so these things are going around. And so,
By the way, Habitat for Humanity is like the most awesome organization. I worked with them for a while. They're fabulous people.
I don't know them besides the Restore, but I love the fact that they have a store for people to come in and buy things that aren't new but work. Yeah. And really, you know what I mean? You just need a door. It doesn't have to be a fancy door. Just it's a good door.
And the light switch panels, you know.
Right. So there's a ton of things that, as you're getting rid of it, stop and think: could this be useful to someone? Is it still functional? Is it even, for instance, clothing? When you're getting rid of your clothing, hopefully you're bringing it to one of a ton of different places that recycle clothing. But don't be afraid to throw in things like I just had pillowcases that finally wore out, and don't be afraid to throw those in because that gets used as it gets turned into scrap. Sometimes it gets made into paper.
Really?
Yeah, the cotton fibers can be, like the ragman used to in post-war. So all of these things are still worthwhile, even though they're stained. They don't work for you anymore. Whatever it is. There's just
usually my old sheets and blankets I end up bringing over to like animal shelters.
Good, yeah. Well, I used to, for instance, when I sewed a lot, I used to take all of my extras from sewing, all the scraps that I had, and got to be friends with the Council on Aging. And I would bring them in and they make quilts to give away to whatever cause is going on at that time. And
excellent.
There's really, the only thing left in my garbage can at the end of the day is plastic wrap from food. You know what I mean? It's really very little. It's packaging of different stores. There's just so many ways and so many places. It's really changed. The field has changed a lot. It used to be called waste management, and in many places now they call it materials management. Because it's really not waste. It's waste to us because we're done with it and we want to, but we want to throw it away. Understand that there is no away. Away means to somebody else's state, or it gets burnt, which has its own side effects, which is what our waste does. Okay, our trash goes and gets incinerated in a waste to energy place. So at least we're getting something out of it that way in terms of the energy. But at the same time, they have to do quite a bit to make sure that poisonous gases are not hitting the atmosphere. So it's not the best. It's a solution. It's better than a landfill in that landfills, when you put things in there that don't belong in there, they end up seeping through a lot of times and contaminating groundwater. Like the household hazardous waste, that's one of the major purposes for Household Hazardous Waste Day, is to take all these things so that you don't throw them in the garbage, don't pour them down the drain. The drain eventually comes around to our water supply. Like all water is circular.
Or like, flushing the old prescription medication.
Right, because all of these things go round and come back. There is no away. Just think of it that way. Yeah.
Like the little recycle. Before we get to hazardous waste, because we only have maybe about 8 minutes left or so.
Quick. Okay, sure.
So I do want to get to Hazardous Waste Day because not only are we celebrating Earth Day this week, we also have Hazardous Waste Day coming up in
this Saturday.
Shortly, Saturday, the 27th. do you think a penalty for not recycling would improve recycling participation? For example, like my parents in the city where they live, if the trash guys come and notice that you have newspapers in your trash bin, they won't pick up your trash.
Yeah, yeah.
And they will not pick it up until you start separating. Do you think that would work?
Absolutely. Yeah, it definitely does. There's definitely the whole system of making sure that you have a smaller bin that definitely cuts down on your trash. I have the chart. And basically, if you let somebody do anything they want to the curb, you end up with well above a ton of waste per household. By the time you get down to the pay as you throw, which is one of the more draconian systems, one of the best systems in my mind, but it's harsh and it's hard to get people to agree to it. Pay as you throw is all of your trash goes into the bags, like the ones that you have to buy, like our overflow bags. So it's $2.50 for your bag, and so people they recycle everything, and by the time you get to pay as you throw, and so
or the people who make the trash compactors become millionaires because everybody's
there's that too, yes. But that pay as you throw, those people, instead of well over a ton per household, are looking at say 0.5, 0.6 tons per household, which is a very big difference to the town in terms of how much weight they're toting away.
Well, if everybody cuts it by 50%, I mean, geez.
Yes, it's a big deal. It is.
Okay.
You want
Now,
to show the video?
before we run out of time, I do want to talk about Hazardous Waste Day.
Yeah. Sure.
It's coming up. How do we know what is considered hazardous? How to properly prep the materials for dropping it off? How do we sort it? How do we get it there?
Okay.
Without your car blowing up.
Right.
Hazardous sounds kind of
hazardous.
Hazardous.
No, they really are hazardous. If you think about all the things that have side, like herbicides, pesticides, these kill things. They're poisons. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
I don't want to burn a hole in my car.
In your car. So the video covers that. But I definitely encourage you, if it smells strongly and it wasn't something you cooked, you should wonder if this belongs at Hazardous Waste Day.
If it's been sitting in your refrigerator for 3 years and hasn't changed,
it might be hazardous too. But chemicals in general, anything used for cleaning agents, anything used for a pool, your yard, anything used in a spritzer bottle, if it doesn't say green on the side, it probably belongs at Household Hazardous Waste Day. And don't, if you can't tell what it is, if you found it in your garage and you're going, I don't know, bring it in. Yeah. Don't feel the need to.
Don't know what this is. Take it away.
Just bring it in. Yep.
Okay. Let's take a look at that video, and then maybe following up with any questions or further comments that we might have.
Sure.
Hey, Mike, can we take a look at the hazardous waste video? Sounds like really bad.
Hi, I'm Gretchen Carey, and I work for the town of Bedford. I'm here today to tell you about Household Hazardous Waste Day, what we take, how to prepare for it, and what's going to happen when you get there. Household Hazardous Waste Day is our chance to get dangerous chemicals out of your home and to help you dispose of them properly so they don't end up in a landfill or a water supply. Things that you might use in the kitchen include ammonia in large quantities, oven cleaners, drain cleaners, and bleach, and spot removers. Things you might use on your lawn and garden are items like fungicides, herbicides, insecticides, pesticides. All of these are poisons. We take oil paint, but not latex. Pool chemicals are another big batch of chemicals that should be brought in to Household Hazardous Waste Day. Items you might have in your garage include things like fluids from your car, brake fluid, carburetor cleaners, radiator flushes, transmission fluid, maybe old gas from snow blowers or generators, kerosene perhaps, and antifreeze. We also take batteries from cars and motorcycles. We take propane tanks, but that's the only type of tank that we take at Household Hazardous Waste Day. pack up your car, you want to take boxes or crates, things that won't tip over. Pack the items inside, and if there's too much room, fill it in with newspaper. Make sure the lids to all of these bottles are tight. Do not mix chemicals together. It doesn't matter if you only have a little bit in each bottle. Once you get into your car, go directly to the landfill site.
Want your kids sitting next to the toxic waste?
Or my dog licking it, no.
You might have a great idea for a new science fiction movie.
There you go, inspiration.
It all happened on Burlington Hazardous Waste Day.
That's right, that's right.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so that's pretty much the summarization of, it's the same thing for Burlington.
Okay.
If there's any questions, they have some great flyers over at the Board of Health.
Okay.
They take, on a daily basis, they take light bulbs there, the fluorescent light bulbs, any
Now, the
size.
new style fluorescent bulbs, are they still hazardous?
Yes, they are. They have mercury vapor in them.
Okay.
And I have a whole separate video for that, but that's different, another day.
Well, because we just had like the whole energy assessment done on our house, and the guy gave us like a bazillion free light bulbs, and they have the coil, but then they're covered in glass, so they actually look like a regular one.
Yes,
I'm like, ooh.
yes. Yeah, so definitely when you're throwing your light bulbs away, take a look, because the last thing you want to do is throw away one of those curly bulbs in the garbage, have something heavy land on it and break, and
Mercury
gas.
everywhere.
Yeah, mercury's a neurotoxin. You don't want that.
Okay.
So the Board of Health takes those, though. Yeah.
Okay, good to know. And also, I think I remember several years ago, I don't know if this is still the case, but if you miss Hazardous Waste Day, you can call and then bring the stuff to them, like if you have like a paint can or, you know.
Right. I would definitely call if you have any
Okay.
questions, and see what
Okay.
they have to offer you.
Well, we are running out of time.
Right.
So we talked a lot about what happens to all the recycle stuff, what happens to the hazardous waste, what happens to Do you have any tips or innovative ways to follow the little catchphrase, reduce, reuse, recycle?
Sure. When you're doing things, there's a great place called Earth 911. That's a website. Okay.
Is it a .org, do you know?
.com. Yep, .com.
Okay.
And they have some fabulous ideas. You could just spend all your time learning cool things there. But
Who needs Facebook?
think about
I'm
the
gonna do
things
this.
you're doing. Things as simple as reusing, for instance, water. All right. So in the morning, I make a couple of boiled eggs. The water cools down, and then I use it to water my plants. I never used to remember to water my plants until I had my waterer sitting there. And now when it gets full, I think, I haven't watered the plants. And so see, I'm greening the world while at the same time reusing my water. So just start looking at the things you're doing and figuring out how that you could do them differently. If you didn't have much water, how could you be doing this? What could someone else do with the things you're throwing away? Just take a look at what you're tossing into the garbage, stop and say, where could this go? And I understand that it's a bit more work, but believe me when I say people really appreciate sometimes your cast-offs. I did this with a water heater once that was still functional.
Free-cycle.
Yeah, I did. I free-cycled it. And this woman who hadn't had a hot shower in 3 months because she lost her job and her water heater broke, and she was so eternally grateful for my old water heater. So, put it forward, it all goes around.
Speaking of all going around, I have to put this little tag in.
Okay.
My mom's group is having a ginormous yard sale this weekend, Saturday the 27th, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Memorial School. So my previously loved merchandise can go to another loving home.
That's right. Absolutely.
And it's like going to 40 yard sales all at once.
Wow.
It's like
It's impressive.
impressive. And it's indoors this year as well as outdoors.
Nice.
So
Okay.
weather isn't
Right.
an issue anymore.
Good.
So hopefully people can check that out. No hazardous waste there. You drop your hazardous waste off at Francis Wyman, then you come over to Memorial School to fill your car with non-hazardous.
That's right. New and exciting treasures. That's right.
Okay, well, thank you very much for
welcome.
coming. This
Thank
was a
you.
fun conversation and very informative. I learned a lot.
Good. I'm glad. Thank you very much for having me.
So,
I appreciate
and
it.
in a couple of weeks, my next show, well, if you do think of any questions, viewers, that we did not cover, please feel free to email me at talk@bcattv.org, and I would be happy to get the information to Gretchen so she can get back to you with an answer. And I also want to mention that my next show in 2 weeks will be on cancer prevention, cancer research, cancer testing. We'll be talking about the upcoming Relay for Life, but also some of the research that's being done now with, the monies that are raised through Relay for Life and how we can hopefully eliminate cancer and allow everybody to have another birthday.
There you go.
So,
Here.
thank you very much, and thank you guys, thank you all very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks.
Thank
Have
you.
a